Hi everyone, wondering what it's like to live on a tiny island in Belize? We've been full-time travelers, digital nomads for the last 8 years now. In this video, I'll do the best I can to describe the time that we lived in Belize, in Caye Caulker, for 2 months. If you like what we're talking about in our videos and on this channel, and you'd like to support us for free, please watch the 3 videos that we'll have linked at the end of this video. That would be helpful. Right around the time it started getting cold in Canada, we flew into Belize City from our home province. Shortly after our arrival, we grabbed a taxi bus to the ferry port just off the edge of Belize City. Once you get to the ferry terminal, grab a slice of shade and look at the ferry schedule, pick the one that's best for you, and book it. Usually you've got time to grab a little bite to eat before you head off. The travel via boat to Caye Caulker. About a 25-minute ride and you arrive on the island of Caye Caulker. This little island in Belize is surrounded by white sand beaches. And for being such a small island, it has several different kinds of beaches to suit your mood. It has the quiet beaches with almost private docks and no one on it. It has the moderately busy beaches where you'll see a few people come and go. And then if you want to see and be seen all the action, you go to a beach called the Split. The reason for the name the Split is that it's a narrowing of 2 pieces of land coming together, and when the tide rises and falls, it can create a significant current through there. There's even quiet beaches to do some fly fishing if that's something you're into. I had fun doing it here. Caye Caulker itself is fairly small. I think it's 4 or 5 miles long. A person can walk it easily in under an hour from one end to the other. The roads are made of the same white sand crushed coral that you'll find on the beaches, which is quite a unique feature of the island, something we hadn't seen before. And on these roads, transportation-wise, you'll see, in addition to feet, bicycles and golf carts. Bicycles are the primary way to get around this island, and it's the way that we used to travel around while we lived here, because luckily for us, our rental came with 2 bicycles and we were happy to have them. When a bicycle is your only way to get around each and every day, you learn to become quite industrious on them. I remember in Belize, you can't drink the tap water, you have to buy water. And so the first time we went to buy I think it was a 5-gallon bottle of water, we asked the person who was running the store, well, how do people get these home? And they said, well, they put them in the front basket of their bicycles and they ride them home. And we thought, that's never going to work. These roads are made of sand and potholes and puddles. The sand can be loose sometimes. How are we going to ride this heavy bottle of water out over the front of the bike on a basket? But like most things, presented with no other option, you learn how to do it. The roads sometimes can go up and down in a moderate incline and decline, and these beach bicycles have only 1 gear and they're generally pretty high. So that was an interesting learning experience, but a fun way to live too. The apartment that we rented was rather modest in its layout. It had 1 bedroom, 1 small seating room. The amenities were fairly basic. For example, Lori was doing our laundry for us by hand out of a bucket. And we had a very small cooktop, but we made it work. It was comfortable enough. And one of the best features of this place is that it had 2 levels of upper decks. One was the actual roof of the building, and then one was a deck that was built on top of the roof of the building. So we ended up spending quite a bit of time out there because we could do things like our workouts up there. We could lounge on the hammock, grab some dinner or a snack while watching a sunset, watch the neighbor kids set off firecrackers, which they did practically every day. And from the deck on top of the roof, it had pretty good views of, let's say, half of the island. Like most years we live away for the Canadian winter, we enjoyed a tropical Christmas. And I think in the last 8 years or so, we've had Christmas in about 6 or 7 different countries, I would guess. So we set up a small Christmas tree and enjoyed that. The food on the island is worth touching on. We noticed when we were there that the typical local fare was pretty narrow in its offering. So it was usually some combination of rice and beans and a little bit of meat. And so we were, after a short time, looking for other alternatives to these things. We do cook a lot in our accommodations when we're living away, but the grocery stores were fairly limited in what they had to offer as well. So some of the things that made the cuisine a little bit more diversified for us was eating out from time to time. And the island had a variety of little breakfast spots or dinner spots. One of our favorite restaurants to go to in the evening was a place called Wish Willie. We actually had New Year's Eve dinner there because he mentioned he would put on do a turkey, like a Western style Thanksgiving dinner. So I think it was turkey and ham, stuffing, gravy, potatoes, and after a month or so of eating beans and rice and chicken and rice and beans and rice and chicken, that starts to sound pretty good. So we ended up going there probably once a week. Lori also found for us the place where the fishermen come in off the ocean and sell their fish fresh out of a cooler, and we would sometimes go down there, grab a few pieces so that we would have, let's say, 3 meals of fish. The fresh seafood into the diet was a welcome addition. As mentioned earlier, I enjoy fishing, and fly fishing in the ocean is something that I particularly like to do. So we hired a guide. Before we got going, we went down to where the boat departed from, and in a little back pool in the mangroves, there was a school of, let's say, 20 to 30 large tarpon that the local guys would feed, and so they would continue to hang around there. It was frowned upon to fish for those, but they were always there and you could feed them by hand, which was a cool experience. Enjoyed a day on the water, doing some fly fishing with Lori and myself, another couple, and the guide. The fishing was a little bit on the slow side that day, but we were fortunate enough to see things like dolphins out there, and that was a fun time and created a good memory for us. When we were living in Belize, the standard stay visa allowance that was granted by Belize for a Canadian was a 30-day stay. And so about halfway through our stay, to fulfill the requirements of a visa renewal, we had to grab another boat and go to the neighboring island, Ambergris Caye. This island is a little bit larger than Caye Caulker, a little bit more populated, a little bit more transportation. In addition to bicycles and golf carts, you'll see legitimate vehicles on this island. But with an island that has more people and is a little bit bigger, there were also more products and services available. So there were more restaurants, there were little bakeries and chocolatiers, there were fly fishing shops. We grabbed ourselves a nice lunch while we were over there. We went to a spot that was pretty close to the Ambergris Caye airport to renew our visas. With our shiny new visas in hand, we went back to Caye Caulker and enjoyed another 30 days on this island. Once that time was coming to a close, we had to make a decision whether we were going to go back to Ambergris and renew our visas a second time or travel on somewhere else. We had already made plans to continue on to live in Roatan, Honduras for, I think it was 3 or 4 months. There'll be another video coming on that if it's not out already. So once we decided to do a side trip into Guatemala, we jumped on a bus and drove over the Belize-Guatemala border into a town called San Benito, which has a small suburb, kind of isolated island called Flores, on the shores of Lago Pitinitza. And I apologize in advance if I'm brutalizing these pronunciations. Once we were in Flores, Lori had found a hostel for us, and the coolest thing about this hostel was also the least cool thing about this hostel, and that was that it was an open-air jungle type setup. The layout of this place was pretty cool. You could take little paths here and there and steps up and down from our room. You'd find the bathrooms at the end of this path, and then maybe some little kitties at the end of this path. And it was kind of cool, meandering here and there. You'd bump into other neighbors and people staying in your hostel. There were ladders, rope swings, hammocks. It was really relaxed, laid-back environment. What that meant for us was that we had an elevated private room. Seemed like it was going to be private, right? The thing we didn't find out till after we got there is that because it's open air and the main social hub of the hostel was right off of where our room was located, so this space just below our room would serve as the co-working space during the day. And then as the day wore on into evening, it would turn into the restaurant, then eventually the bar, and then into the nightclub. After the first night we were there, I didn't get much to any sleep because it was extremely loud. Lori had booked a pre-sunrise bus tour that was going to depart at like 3 a.m. or something like that to go see the ruins in Tikal. And I thought, you know what, if I'm not going to sleep, if you can't beat them, join them. So I made the responsible decision to stay up, visiting, partying, and maybe drinking with a bunch of 20-something-year-olds because I wasn't going to sleep anyway. Smart, right? I think I staggered up our ladder into our treehouse room at about 2 a.m. I may have contained alcohol at that point. Within an hour or so, Lori's giving me the jostle saying, yo, it's time to go on this bus tour. Let's go see the sunrise at the Tikal ruins. So I stumble myself out of bed, back down the ladder out of the treehouse we go, and off to the ruins. I'm sure these ruins were very impressive. Unfortunately, I don't have a lot of memory of it. Thank goodness we have a few pictures. I will say that the structures that are built there are absolutely mind-blowing. It's beyond my comprehension how someone in that era could build structures of this magnificence on their own knowledge. So we get set up for the pre-sunrise on these huge steps. Good thing that we sat down and got the cameras rolling because I needed to sit down. Sunrise was okay. Probably the highlight of that was the squirrels that came on the stairs looking for food. They were kind of cool. We walked around and she ran up and down the big stairs and we saw most of the ruins. I think at one point in time I said, oh, you just go on without me. I'm gonna have a nap. And I think I might have drifted off for a little while she took in these magnificent ruins. Once that tour was done, it was basically back to the hostel for one night, jumped again on a bus, returning to Belize City, grabbed an airplane, and flew over to Roatan, Honduras. If we haven't already made that video, we'll make that one for you soon, and it will be available to view. My name's Air. This is Plan Free. If you like what we're talking about in our channel and in this video, press the like button and subscribe to our channel. Do us a favor if you'd like to support the channel for free and watch these 3 videos that we're going to place up on the screen here now. That would be helpful to us. We appreciate you guys. We'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.